That was probably the thumbnail right there. And we're live. So I just spent like 2 minutes telling you about the thumbnail, and now it probably took a picture of me like talking or whatever, but who cares? Welcome,
Mhm.
everybody, back to Shift the Journey. I'm your host. My name is Tito Amogis. If you've never watched this before, this is just an opportunity where I get to chase down a passion of mine, which is connecting people together and hearing about people's stories and giving people encouragement about career shifting. Your career path is it doesn't have to be a straight one. Everybody's is different, and if you are thinking about a shift but you don't know how to get there, and we got like 9 weeks worth of this stuff with a bunch of different people in a bunch of different industries. And I just hope that you would tune in one of these times and get some encouragement out of it. So with that being said, let's get on to our guest. Our guest today is Nadia. Woo! I don't have any special effects, no clapping. I'll just clap myself. Yay! But Nadia and I have known each other for like 4 years now, right?
Yeah.
We met at the what was it? The Nashville Software School
Mhm.
Data Analytics Roundtable, right? And
Yeah.
so probably in 2020, and so we were all at home during the pandemic and like zooming in, and we always had a lot of fun in those the rooms talking about like career paths and interviewing and stuff like that for the NSS students. All right, so let's get to it. So Nadia, can you tell us a little bit about your journey? I don't want you to start like from birth because we only have an hour.
Yeah, yeah.
So just I was looking at your LinkedIn. It's like kind of reviewing, and looks like you did a bunch of things before you got to your cloud engineer internship at Vandy. Can you tell us a little bit about some of those things, like your entrepreneurship? Gosh, I
Sure.
can't say that word.
It's okay.
Entrepreneurship. There you go.
Yeah, I've had a really interesting journey, and people usually get intimidated when they see my background because I've done so much stuff. I was a mathematics and economics student in undergraduate u- university when I was attending Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute, and then I also have a minor in accounting. But I started doing entrepreneurship because my romantic partner was also my business partner, if I'm being completely honest. And we were in business competitions together. So that was actually
Oh,
an avenue where I found different business competitions. We did different business accelerators, and I ended up working actually for a New York business incubator immediately after I graduated
oh,
undergrad.
that's interesting.
Mhm.
What kind of businesses were you involved in building?
Yeah, so our clients, all, New York has a very unique entrepreneurship ecosystem. They like to have their business accelerators and incubators tied to specifically universities. And then Albany Medical Center, that's where I was working. They were catering to biotech and healthcare focused
Oh,
startups.
interesting.
Mhm.
Okay. And then so after you or as you were going through that, what led you on your journey to go seek out an internship as a cloud engineer, right?
Yeah. So that's a little bit, I don't want to say convoluted, but actually it was two of my clients. Okay, I'm being completely honest. It was two of my clients at Albany Medical Center because we had in-house clients that rented office space from us, and then we also had out-of-office clients that would come in and do consultation day by day or whenever it was needed. So two of our in-house clients, John and Kurt, were the ones who sat me down one day and they're like, "Nadia, what are you doing here?" And I'm like, "What do you mean? No, this is, I mean, this is, it's a unique experience." And truthfully, actually, it was that job that got me accepted uh, in my first master's program at Vanderbilt. But they were like, "Get out of here. quote unquote, that's really what they said. They told me to get out of there and find something better. And they were the ones who told me to go into clinical informatics, and I followed their advice. And I actually came up with a list of the top universities in the country that had clinical informatics programs. Vanderbilt was my number one. I got
Hmm.
accepted, so I didn't really need to
Yeah,
worry, I guess, about any other
yeah.
options
I
after that.
was I was gonna ask you about that because I know you're from the Northeast. You're from New England, right?
I
And
am.
then, you went to Nashville, and it's like, what draws people? I know, when I lived in Nashville, it's like everybody there was from somewhere else, including me, right? But
Mhm.
everybody's story was different. Like, what brought you here? Oh, music or whatever. And it's like, oh, what brought you here? Clinical informatics, right? What brought me
Yes.
there was family and a career in analytics. And so, yeah, that's interesting. So you were like, oh, I'm willing to move anywhere. If Vandy doesn't take me, I'm going to what? Where was the next one?
I was
Do you remember what number two
considering,
was?
yeah, my second option was gonna be, I believe, Ohio State or Ohio University. They're one of the it's one of those 2, schools, but they also had a clinical informatics program. So that was
Yeah,
my second tier. It wasn't anywhere close, but
yeah.
I was
So
gonna
you
take whatever I could
landed.
get.
So you landed number one, Vanderbilt University. We
I
call
did.
that the Stanford of the South, right? Um,
Yeah, I've heard a lot of nicknames for it.
yeah, yeah. Also, the worst football team in the SEC, because I mean it's a bunch of smart people, right? So
Mhm.
it's like all the other players. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, maybe if I was like a genius and I want to play football, I go to Vanderbilt. But anyway, so you were there and you did your master's at Vandy, and then you interned as a cloud engineer. And then where did
Yes.
you start your? Oh, wait, go ahead.
Go ahead. Go ahead. You
So
said
where?
I
Yeah,
interned.
yeah.
Mhm.
And what were there other places that you're looking for internships, or were you like, oh, I want to do my internship at my school?
That wasn't necessarily my intention. To be quite honest, I moved. So for context, I moved to Nashville. I was 24 years old. I had no relatives in the entire state. My closest relatives were in Kentucky. So
Oh man.
I sometimes you look back in your life and you're like, wow, I did that. But uh, yeah, my parents were terrified because I was moving to a state hundreds of miles away from any relatives. We had no even friends in the entire state.
Wow.
So my parents were pretty terrified because I was moving in. Uh, I had already signed for an apartment, so I was moving in, and I had no idea how things were going to go.
Oh, where did you end up living? What part of town?
Oh, it was South Nashville. Uh, South Nashville. I was just actually looking at it today. South Nolensville Pike, like south by Nolensville.
Oh, wow. Did
Hmm.
you think, oh yeah, I'm gonna be pretty close. That's only like 10 away or whatever.
I when I moved to Nashville, I was making 8.25 an hour, and my
Oh,
main goal was to being able to afford my rent, and my rent
yeah,
was $700. So those first couple of months was rough. Um, So,
yeah, I
that
bet.
was one of my main motivations of trying to find an internship because I was trying
Yeah,
to create some economic stability, especially
yeah.
since I was paying for grad school out of pocket.
Hey, that's oh my gosh, that just like hit me. Oh, that sounds so painful. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about your internship. What
Mhm.
what made you like what did you focus on? What did they have you do and what did you end up doing as your first career?
So
Uh
I have to clarify. I didn't
okay.
actually technically apply for that internship. I applied for another internship within the IT department,
Uh-huh.
and I think I applied for business development internship. And so it would have been on the business side, meaning I was not supposed to be touching IT systems. Uh, I also applied. Uh, the morning that they were doing their last interviews for that week. So because if I applied it, I wasn't aware. You have to understand, because my grad school is within the School of Medicine, their IT
Mhm.
systems that they have access to are not the same as the rest of the university. So I
Okay.
actually found out from undergraduate university students at Vanderbilt about uh, jobs that were posted for the school,
Oh,
because my
interesting.
program never notified us. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So I literally found out Sunday during my shift, and then
Mm.
I went home and I was working on the application and I sent it at 1 a.m.
Wow.
So that was really why, like, it was like so last minute. And then I get an email 8 hours later, I think roughly like 9 a.m. And they were like,
Mhm.
okay, well, we're scheduling our last interviews today and tomorrow, so we'll sneak you in. And then during the phone call, and I had to take this interview on the phone at the library because I was trying to find places on campus that were quiet. And then the person was looking through and she's like, "Oh, I see you have some technical background." I'm like, "Yeah, I was doing HTML editing when I was uh, working at Albany Medical Center, because
Mhm.
we, at the time, the university didn't own our accelerator website. So I was doing some minor updates, uh,
Mhm.
security updates and whatnot." So they saw that. And then they also saw some of my mathematical courses. And they were like, "Oh, okay, you have a math, you have a STEM background. Okay, well, let's get you in here."
Oh, wow. That's nice.
And then I had she referred me then to the director of the cloud engineering team at the time, Ed Wisdom. And then Ed Wisdom called me not even 10 minutes later and he said, "Hey, Nadia, I just got your resume. Can we get you in by tomorrow?"
Wow. Wow. That's quick. Quick turnaround.
It was quick. Well, I didn't even know what the position was.
It's like,
I'm not
let's
even
get you
making
in
fun.
here. And then you walk in, they're like, here's a mop.
It's even worse than that. It's a panel interview. So I'm
Oh
being
my
interviewed by
gosh.
3 people, and then someone asked me, "Why did you apply for this position?" I said, "I didn't, and to be honest, I don't know what it is."
That's awesome. Hey, honesty is the best policy, right? What was their
Yeah.
response?
They were a little bit flabbergasted. They're like, "Oh my gosh, sorry, if no one notified you." Uh, so
Oh my
yeah, I
gosh.
was very
That's
honest
too
during the
funny.
interview, and that was actually that was the first semester that they took a non-computer science major for the
Wow.
internship.
Look at you blazing trails.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. So then after you're done at Vanderbilt, you started to work at where you worked at
HCA.
HCA right after that? Yeah. And
Mhm.
so what did you go in as? What was your position
I
there?
was Yeah, I started off as a business intelligence intern,
Mhm. Oh, so
and,
you did an internship there. I was thinking it was your, like, first.
yeah, I did 3 internships my last year of grad school, and 2 of
Oh,
them, my HCA and another one I was doing
oh my
simultaneously.
gosh. Okay, hang
Yeah.
on. Time out, time out. So
Oh, sorry,
this
sorry.
you had 3 internships. So was that your plan to do, like, 3 internships? Because I mean, I know not everybody out there is like, "Oh, I wanna go, back to school to, go into something else." There are other people who, are just trying to get some experience, try to do this, try to do that. What was like I can think off the top of my head a few reasons why, like, yeah, it'd be cool to do a bunch of different internships, especially if I'm, trying to think of going in a direction. But what was your, like, reasoning behind doing the 3 internships?
I so At Vanderbilt and HCA, they restrict internships to 30 hours a week.
Okay.
So, if I'm being honest, I was working at HCA at 1100, and then I was just going up. I was walking 4 blocks towards downtown, and then I had my other internship that I was doing in the afternoons. So I was working still about 40 hours while I was finishing up school.
Oh, man. Well, I mean, if you're, like, supporting yourself and then you're paying for grad school out of pocket, that makes sense. So you say
Yeah,
you're working at 1100. You mean 1100
1100
Charlotte
Charlotte.
Avenue or whatever it's called now?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
used to
yeah.
work there. I worked there for I don't know, like after it was built, and then I left in like late 2017. Yeah, I was on the 10th floor. Where were you?
I was on the ninth,
Oh, okay. That makes
and I
sense.
I started January 2019.
Oh, okay. Yeah. And then so after those two internships, the one up the road was at
Utilize Health.
okay. So that was the third one. So you have Vanderbilt and you had HCA and then you had Utilize Health.
Mhm.
Wow. So then what was the first like entry level? What was your first position that you took after that?
The data analytics, sorry, the business intelligence intern one became full-time. I got
Oh,
promoted to
okay.
associate. Yeah.
So what was the kind of work that you were doing there? Because like
I
I know that business intelligence analyst, data analyst, all these titles, and they don't mean nothing. You know that, right? Being in data, titles don't mean anything because it's different everywhere. Somebody's like, "Oh,
It
I'm a
does.
BI analyst." And what do you do? I make dashboards all day. And then somebody's like, "Oh, I do Python all day." And it's like, what were you doing there? What was your job
Yeah,
like?
we I was working on the supply chain analytics teams and supply chain analytics team, and we were making Power BI dashboards and reports and automating a lot of their basic systems. That
Mhm.
was all. I should clarify. That was all pre-COVID.
Yeah.
And then during COVID, we had to pivot a little bit, but that was the main intention of the team was to create these automated reports for the business teams in the department.
What were the kinds of things that you were doing, like, once the pandemic hit, aside from working from home?
Uh, Working on consolidating supply chain item list for HCA National. Uh,
Okay.
I actually got temporarily reassigned to another team. So everybody on the supply chain analytics team, they got reassigned temporarily to help out the business teams. And oh my goodness, I'm forgetting the name right now, but it was the team of the nurses that actually tested the supplies.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, they sat adjacent to us when we're in the office, and I got assigned to them. So what I ended up doing was I ended up taking over what my coworkers started, which was consolidation of their item SKUs, essentially the unique item SKUs that were
Oh,
being used for
yeah.
PPE in HCA across the country.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
And that,
That's
and that
interesting.
went from
I
a
mean
thousand items to 10,000 items.
yeah, yeah, I'm sure. Wow. So then how long did you do that?
I continued to do that until I left HCA. It was still for a year and a half. That was one of my permanent duties.
Mhm. Yeah. And
And
so then
during
go
Go ahead.
ahead. No,
I
you're
was gonna
saying
say during
during?
2020, I was updating that, usually once a day.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right. So then, was there something that you were looking for, like in a position that you weren't getting there? I mean, let me clarify because like everybody has reasons, like they could look for another position or whatever.
Sure.
Was there something like more analytics or like data sciencey that you were looking for?
Yes, that was definitely, I wanna say my frustration. I'm grateful for my team, and I say that because I'm still close to a majority of them to this day, but, I took I took the position at HCA because during my internship interview, my director very discreetly said to me, "Uh, I I don't wanna just hire you for the internship, I want you full time." So I knew that going in. I'm
Mhm.
like, "Okay, do a good job with the internship because I'll be salaried, within 3 months." But, I enjoyed some of the data that we dealt with. I'm going to be honest. Financial data is so clean. I mean, when you're dealing with accounting and general ledgers, everything matches up. There's no discrepancies. There's no, well,
Oh
there's a
no.
1% variance. No, it is this tight because you are using the accounting books, and it's there. It's literally like, okay, well, 100%. Where does it go? But yeah, supply chain data is messy and nasty, and COVID
Mhm.
certainly didn't uh, help that at all. I would just say it amplified the problem. But I have a master's in clinical informatics, so I wanted to get more into the clinical diagnostics and
Okay.
the claims portion of data,
Mhm.
because we didn't have access to that. Well, you worked at HCA. When you worked there, would you say that the data there was very segmented by the department or the team?
Oh my gosh. So I'm trying to remember back like 7 years ago. It's been like 7 years.
Yeah.
I would say, yeah, yeah. And there were like a lot of uh disparate sources of data, right? Different ways that people store things, different places, and people wanted things to come together so they could create enriched data sets. But a lot of times it was like, yeah, just join on this field, and it's like this field is not. It's not a clean field. So then it's like I started out with 10 million records, and now I have 100 million records. It's like, so yeah, it was, yeah, depending on what department you were in, you had a different data sources, right?
Yes. Yeah, two of my reports together were handling 10 million rows of data every single day.
Yeah.
And that was my
Yep.
just two of my Power BI reports.
Yeah. Oh, so was it like a live connection so that every time you made a change, it was like sending another query
Mhm.
to a SQL?
Mhm.
Oh gosh. Ew.
Uh, um, that was what they wanted automated, and I'm like, "Okay." Uh,
Oh no. No, typically with stuff like that, I connected with Alteryx, and then from Alteryx, um, put it somewhere, put the data somewhere else, or and then have that update run at whatever interval. And then the Power BI or the Tableau, I worked with Tableau, then the Tableau was connected to that data source that was created by Alteryx. And so you're not like live querying a SQL database like every move you make. I'm going to filter here. And then it's like waiting, 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 waiting. This is awful, awful, especially when you have like 100 million rows of data. Oh my gosh, it's terrible.
yeah. I think also the issue was that some of the uh, business employees had this false assumption that more is more.
Oh
So,
yeah, more is
oh,
more. Like, yeah, no, I really need you to remake this Excel report that I have that has 100 columns, and I want you to put that in Tableau. And I'm like, no, nope,
I,
nope. And then it's like, okay, this is built out. And then they're like, well, can I export it from Tableau? I'm like, why did I just spend my life making this dashboard?
I had to make my reports exportable.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, I think that's funny. That's the rub, right? So people want their manual processes automated. People want their data to be to be in a way that they can quickly read it, but then people a lot of times still just don't trust. They don't trust the applications. They don't trust it, and they want to go. It's like, well, my gut is telling me that's wrong. So then I'm going to go in and analyze this data. I'm going to eyeball 10 million rows of data. I've had people go, yeah, I want to eyeball, 10 million rows. And I'm like, I don't know how you're going to do that with Excel, because Excel only goes up to 1.14 million rows. And the closer you get to 500,000 rows, the worse it's going to be, because you're going to try to open that Excel file, and then you get an email, and then your computer crashes. So
Yeah.
It's yeah. I mean, that's like one of the biggest issues, right? Is getting buy-in, right? And getting people to
Mhm.
not work around the thing you just worked on, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I there is one of my reports, they kept on asking to add more columns. I'm like, Is there really any additional benefit at this point?" We're adding now the 25th column to this
Oh
one
no.
data visualization. I
Oh
don't know at what point you think, "Okay, what we're good," because we're already at 25. We started off at 15. In every single time, it's at least one you're asking me to add every single month. At a certain point, you either A, have enough information or you don't.
yeah. So all right. So let's kind of shift gears. So tell me
Mhm.
about your next position. What was that like? You said you want to get back to clinical informatics,
Yeah,
and
I ended up working at Monogram Health, and I had my boss, Adam Good, knew I was very hungry. I was hungry for doing some deep data analytics diving. I love finding outliers. I love finding explanation of outliers,
mm,
and I really was given a lot of leeway to go investigate what were some of the issues, and not just in terms of what the population was, but also what were issues in our database, and that's really where I started thriving
nice. So
because
how did you find that position? Like, what were you looking for in the job description? Because once again, talking about the titles don't mean anything. Sometimes you can do a search on LinkedIn or Indeed for certain technology, and then you might find your way in there. What were the things about the job description that got you to believe, like, yeah, this is something I need to apply to? Not just like I need to take this position, but this is something I need to apply to.
I actually had a recruiter reach out to me.
Okay. Yeah.
So the recruiter reached out to me, and it's sort of funny because initially I didn't. Uh, I'm like, I don't think this is gonna work. And then I was responding to that recruiter on another position, and then they said, "Well, I think this would be a really good fit for you." Uh, we went through the interview process so quick. I can't actually really say. I don't. I'm trying to remember. I know because I'm being serious. The recruiter contacted me about multiple positions. I responded to one for something else, and then she mentioned uh, about the first position that she contacted me about, and then I had my Zoom interview the next day,
Yeah.
and then
Okay.
that was on a Friday. So she mentioned it to
Yeah.
me on Thursday or Friday, and then Friday afternoon I had my Zoom interview. Monday I had my in-person interview, and an hour within leaving the building, I had the job.
Wow. Man, you're like on the fast track. What
Uh,
about for mere mortals? What do we do? What do mere mortals do?
I will say, yeah, I've given a lot of career advice over the past several years. I I will say that in terms of what I'd recommend for you to look at in terms of the job, uh, not just look at the job description, but try to see what's the background you can find on the company. How new is it? Is this a new team? Try to look at the if you can find the manager on LinkedIn, see how many people. Try to dig around and see what information you can find. I say that because when a team is starting out, there's a lot more opportunity, in my opinion,
Mhm.
as opposed
Yep.
to jumping into a team that's already been developed, that's already been built, and then you're just a cog in the wheel of
Yes.
a, something that's already in motion.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. I talk about that often. Like, the last time I was in the Nashville Software School analytics roundtable, I was in was I in career paths, right? And so the thing that people often ask is like, what's the difference between working for a small company or a big company? And I'm like, well, I worked at a company of like less than 100 people,
Yeah.
and you have so much opportunity to do so many different things. Sometimes it can be overwhelming, but like if you don't know how to say no, I have trouble sometimes. But if you really want to get into like a bunch of different things and you don't know exactly what you want to do in data, I think working in a smaller company is the way
Hmm.
to go, because I felt like, at a bigger company, I felt like I was no, I was like a nick on the car, on the like a little, little spoke on the wheel in the
Yes.
gigantic machine, and it was like I was like, I don't, even know that what I'm doing is important. I don't know that what my team does is important. It's like so many levels up. Then it's like, okay, where's the importance? And then sometimes when you have huge like organizations, you have the same thing. So like, and then they have competing priorities, and they say,
Hmm.
"Oh yeah, look at my dashboard." No, look at my dashboard, and it's like, why did I do this? To compete with people I work with, or I'm working against. It's weird, but yeah. So yeah, Monogram Health. You are you still there? You moved on from there?
I did get laid off, and I have been taking some
Oh,
personal time, and that's okay.
why did I
Yeah,
not know that? I'm terrible. I'm a terrible friend.
okay. It's okay. Yeah, no, I've been taking some personal time off. So I actually I sold my place in Nashville when I moved away. So I've been taking some time. I'm still actually, for clarification, I'm in my second master's program, so I'm just focusing on classes for the time
Yeah,
being.
and going to Japan. Yeah, you got
I
that.
shouldn't say that. I'm not just focusing on classes. I am working on a research project with the CDC. I've been very hush hush about it, but I'm
What?
happy to talk
Oh
about
my
it.
gosh. You're so
So-
see, we had this conversation before we came on here. I said, Nadia, why do you have a picture of yourself on the back there? And she said, no, that's not a picture, it's portrait. Right. So it's like painted by somebody who paints like famous people and important people. And she's like, oh, I was the lowest like rung on the ladder there. And I said, not yet. I mean, you're maybe now you're low on the rung, low rung on the ladder, but in time, you'll be one of those people like that person's going to be like, yeah, man, one time I had Nadia. You had Nadia in there? Yeah, yeah. I painted a portrait of her. Yeah, that was like the highlight of my career. So you never know. Working on something with the CDC, that's no big deal. I keep that kind of hush hush. You're live on LinkedIn and YouTube. I don't know how hush hush you want to be about it. Oh my gosh. So anyway, all right, let me go back to it. I usually ask people three
Mhm.
things basically throughout the whole conversation. Sometimes explicitly ask them, other times it's just kind of in there and it's worked into the conversation. The three things are like, where did you come from and how did you get to what you're doing? The second one is like, what's something unique or interesting that you're involved with? And I think you just threw that out there. No big deal. And then like the third thing is like, what are you passionate about?
Ooh,
I know that you're passionate about helping people, like giving people career advice and stuff like that. And it's
yes.
it's great to learn from somebody who's had so many different like experiences in their career. So what's something that you're passionate about other than that? I mean, you can talk about that too, but is there anything else that you're passionate about?
I'm
Cats. You're
passionate about
passionate
a lot.
about cats.
Oh yeah, that's my baby. That's Khaki. We actually adopted him from Kentucky when uh, I was visiting my partner's grandparents, and he made the trip back with us.
Oh wow.
But yeah, uh, let's see. What are things that I'm passionate about? Well, we were talking about it briefly before we started the stream. I like travel, and I just came back from Japan on Friday, so hopefully I don't seem too jet lagged. But, yeah, I went to the Caribbean in August, then I was in Hawaii in December, and just came back from a 2-week trip in Japan. And then next year, we're going to go on a cruise to Mexico from Tampa. We might be heading down to Orlando in October. And then, oh,
Cool.
yes, we're going to New York City in May.
Wow. Yeah, yeah, travel that's where it's at. My wife and I are talking about we talk about it all the time, but it's like gonna get our debt paid off and we're gonna do all kinds of stuff like buy an RV and go drive all over the place, and then also make a trip to the Philippines, the land of my forefathers, and give her that experience because she's never been to the Philippines. I I went when I was like 4, and then I went when I was 18, and I lived there for a year, which is where I learned so many things, and I thought I was really Filipino when I went, and then when I got there, I realized that I was very American, but also Filipino. It's Yeah. If you have family in another country, you might know what I'm talking about. But and then I went back again like 5 years ago. I went and man, it was so many things that I want to share with my wife. But anyway, yeah, travel is like that's up there. I love it, but I haven't been able to do a lot lately.
What's the Filipino dessert that is the mix of things? It's two
Oh,
words repeated.
yeah, it's called halo halo. It,
Halo, halo.
yeah, it literally means mix mix.
Yeah, I actually had it for the first time when I was in Hawaii because
Okay.
there's part of the island that has a pretty we were in Maui. Uh,
Yeah.
there was one restaurant we went to, and it was a Filipino restaurant.
Okay. What did you
Yeah,
get?
I remember the halo halo, and eggplant's my favorite vegetable, so I'm pretty
Okay.
sure I've had eggplant. Okay, so one of my exes, his mother's from Philippines, and she used to make me eggplant omelet. I don't know if you've
Yes.
had that before. Yeah,
Yes. No, it's called tortang talong. Yes, I know exactly what that is. My parents would make that for me growing up. And so you get a little protein, you get a little bit of slimy eggplant, whatever, and fry it up. And you
yeah.
keep the top of the eggplant in there, right? You peel it, and it's like kind of smushy, and then you dredge it in egg and then you fry it. What's funny about this conversation is that when I put it out there saying, "Hey, I'm going to do a podcast," and this was like I don't know if it was last year or like early, like late the year before. I was like, "Hey, what do you guys want me to talk about?" And I was like, career paths, um, veteran stuff.
Hmm.
Going from military to civilian, or like Filipino food, and like it was like 87% of all the people who responded to the poll were like Filipino food. I was like, what? So tell me, man, I got something in my throat. Hang
That's fine.
on. Tell me about your experience with the halo halo. Let's go down there.
That I looked it up what it was online before I ordered it. To be clear, I would
Okay.
say I'm a pretty adventurous person. I'm pescatarian, but
Okay.
I I have to clarify. I was vegetarian for 11 years, and then I finally included fish again in my diet in
Okay.
July 2023. I mean, when it comes to fish, honestly, the more raw it is, the better. So I'm pretty daring, and I say that because the first time I started consuming seafood again, I had oysters. I had
Oh
raw
my
oysters my
gosh.
first night. Yeah, I go hard. So I looked up the description of halo halo, and I'm like, okay, like this is interesting. And I was like, yeah, let's just go with it. Parts of it were amazing, and then parts of it I was like, what on earth is going on? Uh, I like coconut, so the coconut parts I
Yes.
was like, this is great.
Yes.
But the jelly parts, I was like, what? Okay. I, I gave it to my partner. I'm like, you can have this. I don't.
It's the jelly part. I try to explain the jelly part to somebody. I was like, well, it's not as soft as Jello, but it's not as hard as the Jolly Rancher. It's like it's somewhere in between. And they're like, what is that? And I was like, you just got to try it. What about? Did you have beans and corn in your halo halo too?
No. Oh, no. Uh, based on. If I did, I probably would have cried. Because this was after I had a meal. I do not want savory
Here's the
food
thing.
for my
Oh
dessert.
my gosh, that's so funny. You know what? It's not the only dessert that has corn in it in like Filipino cuisine. There's one called maíz con hielo, which is from the Spanish, right? Spain colonized the Philippines for like 330 years. And
Yep.
so like maize is corn, yellow is ice. And so it's basically um it's like sweetened condensed milk and maybe some milk or ice cream and shaved ice and corn. And let me tell you, I grew up eating that and I love it. And okay, so the thing with the beans, I'm pretty sure that like Asia, Asian cuisine is like Pan Asian cuisine. That's the only cuisine that I've ever had that had beans as part of a dessert. Because like you can get red bean paste and some stuff like from Chinese bakery. Um,
Yep.
and then we have that influence in the Philippines also. We have these flaky things called hopia, and you can get it with red bean paste. But I worked at the last company I worked for. A lot of the people I worked with were from Brazil, and so I'm like, kind of educating people on like Filipino cuisine, and I'm like, yeah, and halo halo has beans in it, and they're like, what? That's nasty. You no. The next time you try it, you need to ask for beans because you get the bean texture, but it's not like savory, and it's so
Hmm.
hearty because it's protein. It's so good. I love it. But like we can't have it like that because my wife is allergic to legumes.
Oh.
But so when we go visit my family in Nashville and we go to the Filipino restaurant there, Maymax, and it's in Laverne. We go over there and I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna get some halo halo, but no corn and no beans because my wife is allergic. But did you have like ubi or flan in there?
Ubi. Yes, I love ubi. Oh my goodness. I love
Yeah,
ubi. Okay, I go
yeah,
crazy about ubi.
you
I
should.
go crazy
Purple
about
yam.
ubi and I go crazy about taro.
Okay,
Uh,
yeah.
yeah.
Purple
I know
It's
taro's
hilarious.
not necessarily
Yeah,
Filipino, but uh,
yeah.
I, okay. Side note. Okay, I'm saying this as somebody who just came back from Japan. Japan is one of the biggest exporters of taro.
Wow.
Naturally, I would think that getting taro boba tea would not be an issue in Japan, considering how common it is in the United States. Wrong.
Yeah,
Okay?
really.
They do not have it as a common boba tea flavor. They call it tapioca there, and the most
Mhm.
popular flavor is strawberry milk. Getting taro was just impossible. I'm like, you're one of the biggest exporters globally. This makes no sense.
Yeah, but yeah, well, I mean, you have to think about like the local tastes. So it's yeah, that's interesting though. Man, so you know what? There's actually I've looked it up before. There's some Filipino restaurants in your area. We're gonna talk later and maybe I'll find you one and you could go get some halo halo with beans in it, and then you just let me know how that's going.
I
All right,
have,
so you
yeah.
yeah, so we're gonna go ahead and wrap up because I mean, as much as I love to talk about food, we can talk about that off camera. But it was really great hearing your story and like hearing some cool things you're involved with and talking about your portrait. Your portrait up there in the background, and but if you could give somebody who is like looking to do a career shift, if you could give them like one piece of advice, like in like a minute and a half, what would
Mhm.
you do? What would you say?
That's easy. I would say that you are your best marketer. And people who, in my experience, are usually having trouble finding positions for extended amounts of time, and not because of the lack of work experience in their resume or their online profiles. It is because they are not advertising themselves efficiently.
Nice. Yeah. So market yourself, believe in yourself, and you could go places, right?
Hmm.
You can one day have a portrait in your back. It looks just like you.
Oh my
Mine doesn't
gosh.
look like me. It looks like a guitar because that's what it is.
Yeah, maybe one day you'll be like me and end up going to Miami to do a photo shoot for her portrait.
All right, so we're gonna cut off the stream now. I'm not gonna cut you off, but we're gonna end it here. I want to let you guys know that I've been going hard every Monday night for the last 10 weeks, and I actually am taking a break next week. Just kind of chill, sit on the couch and watch some TV. I don't watch some YouTube. I like watching like Filipino shows on YouTube. But then we'll be back the week after that. And man, I did this last time and I couldn't remember who my next guest was. Hang on one sec. I got to look at Sign Up Genius. Who is the next guest for go. Of course, it's taking a long time. I should have done this before. Sign-ups. And our next guest is, wait for it. Oh my gosh, it's so slow.
Do you want me to pull it up? I'm wondering if I'm going to beat you.
Yeah, maybe. No, I got it. All right. So we're not going to be live on the 1st. We will be live on the 8th. Oh, Johnny Kennard, former, I met him when he was a sales engineer at Alteryx. He's now got a new gig, and he was a, I don't know, like you could say, like one day he was singing on Broadway, and the next day he was selling software. It's something like that. Maybe not exactly one day, but he's got an interesting story. He's got a great headshot. He looks like a movie star, and he's got a great singing voice. So, all right, I won't see you guys next week, but I'll see you on the 8th. All right, have a good one. We'll see you.